Well, I have to say, I think it starts with who created it. John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, the mastery of what they created, and then with this man so intuitively did it. So truly, in my portrayal of this character, I'm standing on the shoulder of a giant. So it made my job so much easier because Nick so intuitively created the character that you all know and love right now. But it really started with John Carpenter and Deborah Hill.
And you were there on the set of the first movie playing Michael. How much of the role did John let you do yourself? How much was on the page? Was it a combination of both?
Yeah, it was it kind of just gave me the mask and said, walk here, walk there, tilt your head.
So the head tilt was from John?
No, that was from John, yes it was. It's, so like Jim was implying, it was whatever instinctually made me decide how to walk and move. So, I guess from years of studying horror, no, it was just on the day. On the day.
This guy. I like that. Just wing it, just fine. Just gonna wing it and create a horror icon that's gonna last for 45 years. It's unbelievable. Halloween was the first proper horror movie that I ever saw. Is that a case with you guys? A lot of you guys? Throw your hands up if Halloween was the movie that changed your life. Enough said, I think. If you've got a question for these two absolute legends, throw your hands up in the air. We're going to be taking them right from the beginning. We're going to be mixing into the conversation.
And if you're from Scotland, can we please have an interpreter?
We've got a Scottish interpreter. Aaron is about. He's our official Scottish interpreter. Before we go to the Halloween questions, I am going to go straight to Nick Castle and say, you are responsible for apart from Michael Myers, two of my favourite things on this planet. Escape from New York, written by this man, one of the best films ever made, and the theme tune to Big Trouble in Little China, with John Carpenter and the Coupe de Villes, this guy. So, thank you so much, sir, for a big part of my life.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello there. This is a question for the both of you. Hello. Michael Myers is such an iconic character. How do you think the character becomes so pivotal in like the face of horror? So recently we've had Art Clown and Sam from Trick or Treat, but Michael Myers is one that stands out so iconically. What do you think it is about that character that just makes him so incredible?
Well, one thing is the mask. Just technically speaking, when I think that enigmatic, blank expression lets the audience kind of read in who that is. There's a lot of you young women that have a crush on him, which I'm a little concerned about. But I think that had something to do with it. He was just kind of like this blank slate that you can kind of fill in. So I think that he's not as specific as a lot of the other characters. I guess you could say that of Jason too, but that human-looking oddball likeness, I think, was very clever. And of course, we all know how that came about. Tommy Lee Wallace, the production designer, went to a toy store, grabbed a William Shatner mask, and doctored it up, and that's what we got.
And I think to add to that, who hasn't had a dream where you're running and you can't get away? You just feel that thing drawing you from behind. So the concept of an evil entity who can walk faster than you can run, you just can't get away. And so I think it takes us back to the subconscious. So deep inside of us, we all have this preternatural fear of being in a place that we can't control, that we can't defend ourselves in, and we can't get away. So I think that the genius of what John Carpenter created, that Nick so naturally fell into, because when I was called to do this, to play this character, there's a great old character actor named Ted Knight, who gave me an incredible gift. He told me if you want to be a good actor, emulate, learn to emulate the bartender, emulate the guy walking down the street, emulate your mom or your dad, but don't try to talk like them or move like them. Just reach inside their soul and grab their soul. If you grab their soul, you will naturally do what they do. So I watched the 1978 version one time, And there's a scene where Nick is walking camera left to camera right in the backyard, and I went, I got it. I reached inside what Nick had created, what John Carpenter Deborah Hill so brilliantly had brought into existence. And I captured what Nick created, and that thing that Nick did so naturally is the essence of what I was afraid of in my own dreams.
You wanted an answer.
That's what you got an answer.
There's so many people who have questions. There's one more over there. Hello. You hold the microphone up a little bit. I'm so sorry.
Nick, you started all of this Michael Myers and St. James, you ended it. With both of you playing completely different eras of Michael Myers, how did your experiences differ from that until?
Well, you gotta imagine, for me, there was no Halloween movie when we started. There was no franchise. There was no sense of it being this amazing success. So all it was a little movie that John was doing, my good friend from film school. And so it was a lark. It was like doing a film project with a bigger camera. So it was kind of open-ended. For someone like James or even some of the other guys that did it afterwards, it's a totally different experience because you have the weight of the franchise now and the weight of the success of the movie. So it's a different all that.
I think for me, my father was special forces, and my brothers and I sort of learned his mentality that once you're given a mission, once you have a focus, you commit 100% to that focus and nothing else exists. You wear blinders. So truly, when I said standing on the shoulder of a giant, standing on Nick's shoulders gave me this immense gift and the heritage of Halloween, that, especially in 1978, because I was informed immediately that none of the other movies matter. In our universe, it was 1978, 2018, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends. So really, I had the benefit of what Nick had created so naturally, and I allowed that to, inculcate my being and allow that to be filtered through my 60-some-odd years of life and experience as an actor, as a stuntman, as an athlete. All these, all the work I did as an actor built up. I played characters like the Killer Story, the Buffalo Vampire Slayer. So there was no pressure. It was really the gift of walking into a painting that had been half painted already. So it was a super, super joy. Hands down, man, the gift of a lifetime to play this character.
I personally think your iteration of Michael, James's version of Michael is becoming the definitive look of the character. Obviously, it's in sync with your version. The costume's the same, the mask's the same. It does feel like there's a connective tissue between you guys. And I think that's why the 2018 film, especially,
Is it gonna follow him?
Such a strong movie.
You might take over,
What were you told going into it? Obviously, David Gordon really kind of pride, the creative team behind it. John was doing
That's so steady.
sort of getting the band back together, getting yourself involved. What was that process like? You handing over because you were in the film, you did some voice work for Michael, and then you take over with the master and the new talent. So what was talk us through making 2018, and obviously when you guys became friends?
Well, by the time I came on the set, James had already started the show. And so the relationship there was between James and David and how to play the role. Once I got there, we became very quickly close friends. And we still are. We just went to Edinburgh together with our lovely ladies. And still have a great time together. But as far as the show is concerned, there was a passing of the torch, so to speak. James can talk more about it, but it was in one scene where I was on camera for the only time. And then, as you mentioned, the post-production of all the movies that David did, I did the breathing. So I'm going to give you some breathing.
No, very good at it.
Well, that's the original Castle Halloween breathing.
It's Nick's Castle's brilliance. Yeah, so I think it was about 3 weeks in when Nick showed up. David didn't really direct me character-wise. I showed up prepared. That's our job, right? Our job is to show up prepared. I think the movie industry is really unique this way. It's one of the very few industries where you can hire 130 or 180 people and everybody shows up knowing how to do their job. There's no training that happens on a day, on the set. So I show up prepared. The direction David gave me one day, well, he called me after I was cast and said, okay, James, Jimmy, he goes with Jimmy, I want you to move like a cat. And I said, well, that's kind of crazy because my cat possibly sitting in my lap. He goes, okay, good enough. So anyways, when you come down, let's have dinner. And that's the only conversation we ever had about the character. Nick and I have never talked about the character, never. We've talked about a million things, especially his films. And if you haven't seen the Nick Castle film yet, do yourself a favor. He's made some of the most beautiful films ever made in our history. So please do a Nick Castle retrospective at some point.
I'm going to jump in a second. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nick. You've directed so many different films. You made Dennis.
Yes, Dennis.
Everyone remembers Dennis the Menace from the 90s, Mr. Wilson. Nick Castle directed Walter Matthau as Mr. Wilson. James Jude Courtney is correct. This guy is a true artist.
My favorite film of Nick, well, I have two. Actually, my favorite film that Nick made is called Tap. And if anybody loves dance, especially tap dancing and the iconic, please do yourself a favor and see that film. So when Nick got there, we didn't know how we were going to share the screen, or what we were hoping, both of us, is that we were going to have a passing of the torch. And sure enough, David set it up so that when Laurie Strode is driving up in front of the house and you see the shape up in the window, that's Nick. So when she shoots the weapon and you see the shape's face mask in the mirror, that's me. And the fun part was the weapon, the rifle was about 2 feet behind me and a foot over, and they shot the projectile right past my head into the mirror. And Nick was going, well, I'm glad you did it to you because I wasn't going to do that shit. So we had the proverbial passing of the torch, and it really was a very, very special moment. And so that whole thing, we leave everything else to conjecture what that means to the fans.
I think it's a bit. I think you guys are my two favourite models. No disrespect to anyone else. I love them all. The OG, the new guy. It's the Alpha and the Omega. I love it. You've probably done more Halloween films than anyone else.
That's correct. Yeah, I think we've done 3.
You've done 3 more screen time than anyone else, I suppose.
Tyler maybe 2. I can't remember.
Not yet. That's what I mean. That doesn't count. This is. I'm not no disrespect to Rob. No. Don't call me from being Tyler and stop my head in. He's a big dude. No, like for me, it's the Carpenter, the original, and then the new ones. The response to David Gordon Green's trilogy has been mixed in terms of what it means for the character. The actual films themselves, I think, are fantastic. I think the performances are great. I love the way the story went, and I love that it looked definitive and it had closure. Did he have a plan going into the beginning? Were you aware of the plan? And how did that affect the performance?
Well, let me put it this way, because the controversial film is Halloween Ends, right? Oftentimes on set, David Gordon Green would wear a Season of the Witch t-shirt. He knew exactly what he was doing. And so the end, Halloween Ends being controversial, is what David Gordon Green intended. He intended for it to be what Season of the Witch is now. It wasn't well received by some in its day, and now it's become a cult classic. And David knows that as time goes by, Halloween Ends is going to become a cult classic. I'm often asked, how I feel about Halloween Ends. I play football, American football, and in team sports, in football, for instance, the number one thing an athlete does is buy into the coach's program. You've got to buy into the coach's program. If you can't buy into his program, get off the field, go find another coach, go find another team. And I think it's with every team sport. It's a team sport making a movie. My job is to buy into the coach's program, to buy into David's program, and and to give that everything I had. Do I want to be in every scene? Heck yeah. Do I want to play every play as an athlete? Heck yeah. But it was my job to fulfill David's vision, and I love David Gordon Green. I've worked with Ron Howard and Louis Mandoki and Francis Ford Coppola, like really amazing directors. David Gordon Green, hands down, is the best director I've ever worked with. And I'm hoping to work with this man, Nick Castle, one day, because then he'll be my favorite director to work with.
And how was your experience on the new trilogy? Because you played the Flasher in Halloween Ends.
Oh yes. Yeah, I did. Early on before the 2018, I'd talked to David about how I wanted to participate and how much I wanted to do. We quickly decided that a cameo was the best thing for an old man as myself. He needed a spry, young, 10-year younger person to actually fulfill the role and actually do the work. Boy, am I glad I never got involved with that part of it. Because this man's not only a great actor, but he's a really good stuntman too. And he can take a punch, he can take a chair, even when the crazy actors that don't know what they're doing are throwing it at you. So, in that respect, yeah, I was always part of the family. They treated me so well on the set. It was like I was the icon that I am. They actually treated me as such on the set. That was a lot of fun. And, I got to be part of the party. That was this new Halloween. And, of course, I don't know about you guys, but I think since that, whether you love the films or not, it gave a boost to the whole franchise. It gave a boost to all the love that you guys have for the movie, even if it's just going back and realizing how great the first one was. So it was a wonderful thing for myself, and I think the whole family of people that have done the character, just because it's so much more interested in the franchise, and it's all because of you guys.
Any questions?
Hello. So Nick, you've already kind of answered my question, so I'll ask James, I guess. How does it make you feel that there are girls who have a crush on Michael Myers?
Say that again, sorry, I couldn't
Oh,
hear.
I'm so sorry. How does it make you feel that there are people out there that have a crush on Michael Myers?
Oh, why don't you say it again?
Quite hear that. I think it's really beautiful. The way I describe this experience with you guys is it's like little drops of love all day long. And I think it's when human beings get to share a passion, it's a really beautiful, miraculous thing. And you look over this swath of humanity here, socioeconomics, race, religion, sexual orientation, all these things that allegedly divide us as human beings do not exist in this room. Every one of us, Nick and I and Don Shanks and Tom Morgo, the people that we get to meet, you guys, we get to share our passion together. We get to share these moments of love and joy. And so that's what I find really moving. And sometimes I move to tears. And sometimes I move to tears about the stories you guys tell us about how these films have affected you, or what it meant to you, or maybe sometimes, and I hear this a lot, people are going through particularly the hard times, and how going to see one of these Halloween films has cheered them up, and they heard a comment or whatever. And so yeah, there are the DMs with women asking me to wear a mask and do unmentionable things, but my future wife will tell you it ain't gonna happen.
Just before we go on to the next question, we had Scout Taylor Coughlin and Danny Harris last year. Someone in the crowd brought that up, and they make their boyfriend wear a Michael Myers mask. Not a joke. Next question.
What do you feel about how Halloween has continued, like this video games with Michael Myers in now? Did you expect it to go as big as it is now?
The question is, did I expect how the Michael Myers would roll out into all these different media?
Yeah.
That kind of. Well, not I guess you could look back and say it wasn't. You shouldn't be surprised because anything that makes money, people try to make more money with, and sometimes it turns out to be good. Sometimes it turns out to be annoying. Sometimes bad. So you're left with the creator of the new medium coming up with something that is exceptional, and you hope that it's going to be good to honor the franchise in the way it should be honored. So I know John is always happy when someone does something else and he gets more money. That's how he weighs how these things go and how successful they are. So and I enjoy it, and it's amazing how you wind up finding Michael someplace else, in another world that you would never expect it to be. I mean, just the idea that internationally he's known as a character. Someone just came up with a Taiwanese one sheet of the movie's poster. I didn't recognize those letters. So you can see it's all over the world.
How do you, I'm going to bring it back to John Carpenter. How's your relationship with John? You still keep in touch? You still friends? Because you guys were in a band together.
Yeah, John and I went to film school back in the late 60s, way back, and did some movies together in film school and stayed friends all along. So, yeah, I just saw him about a month ago. Whenever I go, well, not whenever I go, because I've been going too many. It's a weird quoting, it's like so many conventions this year. When I come back with a whole stack of money, I called John and said, John, I owe you another free lunch. And we do. We go out to lunch, and he's always good for free lunch, believe me. If you call him up tomorrow, I'll pay for your lunch. He'll be there.
Do you ever want to play music with him again? Because I know he tours occasionally. Would you want to play music with him again?
Oh yeah, it'd be fun if my voice would ever come back. Somehow it's, you hear it's grappling just from talking to you guys. I need a voice coach very quickly if we were ever to get together again. There was talk about one time about the Kookabills doing like a one-night concert, but don't hold your breath.
I have to max me credit cards to fly to wherever that is. The Big Trouble in Little China theme goes on in my house about once a week. I'll be in the kitchen saying, Big Trouble in Little China. Tim, do you have any more questions? There we go. John, okay, for there's another question as well. Big Michael Myers fan. You can picture there just posing, flexing. Who's next?
Hi, this is a question for both of you. I've not heard one mention, but no questions about Jamie Lee Curtis. What was that like working with her as a scene partner? Of course, kind of one of the original final girls. So, what was it like to act with her?
Well, that's interesting because Jamie and Jim really had a stronger and longer relationship because of the 3 movies, because of all the fisticuffs that they went through. So that was really special. For me, it was Jamie's first movie, and she was just a young woman, a teenager, who was just really dedicated to doing the work well. Real sweetheart. And so it was like, meeting a new friend on the set. And she didn't have, obviously, again, it's kind of like all the baggage of Jamie Lee Curtis going on the set. When I saw her again in 2018, it was fun. I got on the set, and of course, this is 40 years later, so. And she saw me across the lot where we were shooting the movie, and saw me, and she just went, Castle! And we ran towards each other, gave ourselves a big hug, and she said, is this nuts or what? So that's the kind of relationship we have in the new movies.
So, obviously I walk in and knowing Jamie's her filmography and the body of tremendous work she's done, but not knowing her as a person. I characterize Jamie Lee Curtis as a poster child for empowered women. I was raised by a powerful woman. I have a deep appreciation for powerful women, and Jamie Lee Curtis is the epitome of a self-realized, woman. She's self-deprecating. She's funny as hell. She's incredibly intelligent. She does not suffer fools gladly. And the first one in 2018, she walked over and introduced herself. But then I stepped back. I stayed away from her because I didn't know her process as an actor. I didn't know, think about it. I mean, she has a much more complex character to play in that she has these conflicting emotions going on. I mean, with my character, and then her alcoholism and her, family problems and all these things she's dealing with. So I pretty much left her to her own devices. And then in the ending that we shot that didn't end up in 2018, we were going to do a big fight scene. And so finally, she was at the other end of the hair and makeup trailer, and she storms down to the end and she goes, okay, let's talk about this fucking fight scene. And we started talking about it, and so we did the fight. We started working out the fight scene. I don't pad up when I fight because I like to feel it. I'm getting hit in the ribs, or, the only way I wear pads are my elbows and my knees. And if I'm getting hit in the back with a baseball bat, which I do often, I'll wear a spine pad, a very, very thin spine pad. But I want to feel it. Well, we were working out the fight scene, and the stunt coordinator wanted to pad her up. She absolutely refused. That woman has a body that's hard as a rock, and she fights like a guy. She throws frickin' down, man. And so we went through that process. We didn't fight. So then, and Halloween Kills, I never saw her. And, so she called me up and we talked. And a 1 hour conversation with Jamie is like this: 55 minutes Jamie, 5 minutes me. And so then we get to Halloween Ends, and and by that time we know each other. We know each other well. So we sit down and have a cup of coffee together. We have a conversation together, and then it comes to the finale. And as we're getting ready to shoot the finale, I call her over and say, Jamie, let's talk about this. And she goes, yeah, let's go beat by beat. So we walk off to the side, and we start talking about each beat that we're going to go through in our final scene together. And as it happens, and as it gets written up, we have tears rolling down our cheeks because we know these two characters are so deeply in love, and there's so much antipathy, and there's so much pathology. And as we go through this process, she's doing her own fighting. That's her head that I punch through the glass. She was bruised from shoulder to knees. I was bruised from shoulders to knees. Because that was days and days and days of fighting. And at one point, I'm laying on the table, and they're putting prosthetics on my neck, resetting lights, so I was laying, I couldn't move. I had to remain very still. So she walks up, and she grabs my hand, closes her eyes, and for an hour, we sit there and just held hands. Just like true lovers would. And in the end, she and I have talked about this, as we're fighting through those final scenes, we were both feeling these amazingly intense emotions of love and hate, wanting to die, wanting to kill, and all the weird things that were happening with real human beings and real experience. So as a scene partner, Jamie and I talked about this. We both agreed that finale is the most rich and deep scene that she or I have ever done in a movie. And so I look back at this as like, how do you top that? How do you top that? And that woman, there aren't enough superlatives for me to describe what working with that woman has meant to me.
So this is going to be our last question.
Question for Nick and James. Obviously, we've seen the news that Halloween will be coming back. I just wanted to know where you'd like to see it go next. Would you like to see Michael Myers come back straight away in a reboot, or TV series with Dr. Loomis, or like a young Michael Myers TV series? Where would you both like to see it go from here?
Well, I really don't have an opinion so much as I hope it lands with someone with a lot of creativity that has at least as much of is as much of a fan in their love of the franchise as David had for his trilogy. So that's what you hope for, is that maybe not the way you would have done it, but you want someone that really respects the property and wants to make, whether it's TV or a great video game or another movie. Of course, I hope it lives in the world of movies again, because I just love that medium so much. I hear this next idea might be a series, so I'm just very curious about how they're going to do it. That's it.
I have to say, Malik has become a very good friend, and Malik jealously guards this franchise because, as you all know, his father was tragically murdered in a terrorist attack. So, you know, there will never be a Freddy versus Michael or a Jason versus Michael. He will never elude the process. So I'm trusting what Malik is endeavoring with this new television series is going to explore some other dimension, some other universe. Ideally, like Nick said, in the vein of quality that will take us to a whole other place, give us a much deeper maybe understanding of the pathos of this character. But I'm also with Nick. I think this franchise is best done on a big screen. It's meant for the cinema. So I'm in hopes that as they do this, explore this universe, it's a 3-year deal they have with Miramax. It's Trancas and Miramax. Blumhouse is not involved. I'm in hopes that what they do with it will give us a little pearls of joy, and then in the future they can bring it back and you know, explore more of Michael in some other dimension. I doubt they will ever be back unless they add another zero to my paycheck. I am, after all, a whore.
I think that might be the perfect way to end it. Please give it up for the Alpha.